this lesson, we're going to continue to work on this little lamp by adding a bracket that attaches it to the front of the boiler. So let's get started. Save your file if you haven't. Exit isolation from before. Left viewport, zoom in. Okay, there we go. It's a little hard to see here, but if you look in the front, it's like a little pedestal and attaches to the boilerplate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top viewport. Once again, we're going to use a tube cap because it just lends itself to the thing we're modeling. I'm going to click, drag out something a little bigger than the actual lamp, just like that. Let go, inset a little bit. And let's make the segments, let's go with 6. I'm going to convert to Edit Poly by right-clicking, select Edit Poly from the list, Perspective, Zoom. And what we're going to do now is move that up so that it is close to the lamp. Zoom again. Alright, there we go. Perspective once again. Okay, so now I'm going to unhide all this time so we see what we're trying to meet up to. Let's just hit no right now. Okay, and you see because I worked with everything isolated that it's not lining up, so it's okay. What I'm going to do is select this stuff right here. Deselect that door that we caught in there. Let's just move it forward. It's not a big deal. Okay, it's positioned approximately where it should be. Let's go to perspective and move it out to the side. It's close to the middle. There we go. Could probably shift it back to where it was as well. Okay. Now let's just grab that little, what will be our mounting plate. Border select. Let's cap that border. Cap. Okay. And let's grab F3, 4 verts, and scale them. R key, let's scale those out so they're approximately squared off from the front section, which they are. And we'll go to edge. Let's select that edge. The move tool, shift and drag this back right to there. Okay, and let's shift and drag it down. Not too far so we get a tight corner. And now let's do a bigger shift drag. There we go. And click. Now, it's a little wide. We're going to move this out even further. Let's go to top viewport. Let's select all of this. This one as well. Okay, looks like we have everything we need. Let's just push it out here. There we go. Perspective again. F3. It's a little far, so we're just going to nudge it. That works. Now if we need to, just select that bracket. We can always select a couple edges, convert them to vertex. R for scale, we can pull that in a little, deselect those two. Let's pull these in a little. Whatever works. Nothing says it has to be a perfect square right now. Undo that. Let's go to edge, select that bottom line. Let's shift it down. There we go. Control and click vertex icon right here, and let's R scale again. Last thing I'm going to do is edge select right here, Alt and R for ring, and we're going to just add one loop in there. So Control Shift and E. There you go. It added an edge. Let's get this vertex. Let's just pull that down a little bit. And I think what I want to do is scale these so that they're more squared off. That looks good. Move these up a little bit. Again, I'm just improvising. You know, the guy who drives the train isn't here right now, so I don't have to worry about him telling me that I did something that doesn't look right. Your audience most likely won't be experts of, you know, what classic trains look like, or at least every piece of a classic train, so just go with that in mind. Let's make this thicker. Let's add a turbo smooth, 1, 2, 3, 2 iterations. Okay, looks a little soft, right? So let's undo that. Go back to the shell. Let's up the segments to 4. It's a little crisper now. I think we can go to the top view and maybe thin it out a little bit. We're just adjusting on the fly. Again, there's nothing that says we can't tweak this out a little bit. It's not like a car commercial or something where we know we need something exact. Of course, then we would do a little more research, have better reference, and you know, let's deselect these and do that scale again. People know what a Mustang looks like, but not as many people know every intricate detail of this train. So let's move. We're getting paid to do this quickly. There we go. That looks good. Just one more adjustment on this bracket. I think we should move this down. What we're going to do is toggle on the end result. Move those down. And that's more what I had in mind. Okay. Let's uncheck toggle end result. Go to edge. I'm going to do a ring selection, Alt and R. Control Shift and E to add an edge loop. Go to vertex. Let's select this vertex. And let's chamfer it. Could use the settings. There we go. Let's just make it bigger than that. Something in the area of that. Okay, so this little diamond here, it's 4-sided, and because it's going to be a small part, I'm not so concerned that it be an 8-sided opening. We're going to make a little inset, like a circle, where this might have a bolt or a rivet. So I'm going to now select that polygon. I'm going to delete it. Border select. Going to chamfer that border. That value looks good. Turn on shell again and turbo smooth. F4. And there you go. We have that little hole. And the hole, it's pretty circular. I mean, if you get close, you could see it's segmented and slightly oblong. If you wanted this to be perfect and it was a part that was close to camera or had to be highly detailed, you'd want to go with probably 8 segments for the opening. You could always just divide these edges and tie them off to an outer vertex or something like that, and then reshape that into a circle. But for the purposes of this small piece, that's just fine. So let's rename this piece and call it mounting underscore bracket dash 01. Okay, and we're going to do one more thing before I stop. I'm going to go to the top view, F3. I'm going to select this whole section, deselect the door. I'm going to kick it back a little. Looks like it's not meeting up with the door. Check it in perspective once more. That looks good. I'm going to take this whole assembly. I'm going to shift drag to clone it to the other side as an instance, because if we make any edits, they'll remain. They'll come across to this piece. And there we go. One last thing. Let me hide the blueprint for a second so we get a good look at this. Just hide that. And deselect. And now we can see the front of the train has some details going on. And with that, we're going to call the boiler part of the exercise done. Later we'll be adding some little nuts, bolts, and clamps and some lines along the edge, but I think for now we're going to call that the boiler section. So let's do one last thing too. Select all objects, Control A to select all, hit F4 to make sure that they are all selected, which they are. And there's this little drop down here. We're going to click in there, and we're going to type the word boiler underscore parts. Enter. And that now becomes, if I click out, that's a selection set. So if someone works with this later on and they want to select all these parts on the fly, they can click here, roll down to boiler parts, click, they have them selected. The other thing is the layer. We're on the boiler layer. If we hide that layer, you can see we can isolate the boiler, turn it on and off. We can adjust whether it's renderable and all kinds of things just by using the layer. So having these layers in place is very important. It makes the workflow better. I'm going to pause the video, and in the next video we're going to start to build the chassis.